Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining me in this month's Sound POS merchant training. My name is Cesar Rivas, and I am the sales executive for Sound POS. And this is our regular monthly training session for the utilization or the functionality of Sound POS. So a couple of housekeeping items here. All right. The first thing is there's a section labeled Q&A in the Zoom app. So if you could please write those questions and I'll respond to all the questions at the end of the session. Typically, this is about a 90-minute session, maybe up to 2 hours. And we'll do a break. We'll take a break at the 1 hour mark, just a quick 5-minute break. This session is also recorded and it's going to be posted on our YouTube channel. You go to YouTube and look for Sound Payments. We're going to be there. And as a matter of fact, you're going to be able to find any past training sessions that we've had. And it's really the main purpose of this session is to learn how to operate the system. It's not so much how to configure it and set it up, even though we are going to be talking about some of those things. It's primarily about the utilization of the system. All right. So as we look at what we're going to be covering today, let's first take a look at what resources we have. First of all, 24/7 tech support is available for you, for the merchant. The number is 888-263-5661. Or you can also email support@soundpayments.com. You should also have access to Sound Payments or Sound POS rather user guide. And in addition to these monthly free trainings, which you can see the dates we actually have just November 13th and December 11th left for the rest of the year. There is a paid individual training if you want to dive a little bit deeper. But for the most part, we found that this training should be enough to cover the primary needs of how to operate the system. So we're going to first of all be looking at the system components, both the hardware and the software. Then again, we're not going to go in depth in terms of configuration, but we are going to look at some important configuration items there, and also some functionalities. We'll be looking at the discounts and pricing functionality as well, the customer's database and a couple of things that it comes with, the different reports that are available, both on the terminals and on the web portal as well. And then we're going to be looking at the sales screen to kind of close things up. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the terminal parts. The terminal obviously has a customer-facing screen. Almost all of the terminals come with a built-in printer. Okay, and I'm talking about both packs, and now we're also rolling out Deja Vu and Nexto devices. And again, they all come. Most of them come with a built-in printer. Some of them even come with a built-in scanner, whether it be in the form of a camera or an actual infrared scanner. And then, of course, on the customer-facing side, they'll come with if they have the multiple screens. Normally, one screen is for the operator, and the other one is for the payment device, where the credit card information is going to be input. And there are some that don't have dual screens, so you utilize the same screen for that. Now you can also attach some other hardware to especially the countertop units. You can attach a cash drawer, which is usually a generic connection. You can also attach a scanner for barcodes. We are going to be offering very soon an ID scanner as an optional item as well. And we're also going to be offering a scale that's going to be integrated. So those are all going to be peripherals. So that's on the hardware side. On the software side, then we've got the web portal, which is where you as a merchant can do a lot of configuration away from the terminal. Now, this web portal is not an app. It's actually browser-based. So it should function on any device that supports a valid browser. And I mean, Google Chrome, Safari, of course, Microsoft Edge. And again, because it's browser-based, it's going to work on your computer, on your tablet, on your smartphone as long as you're able to browse. All right, so let's talk a little bit about initial configuration. And what I'm going to do during this session is I'm going to show you on the web portal and on the terminal how you can access these items, all right? So the first item you want to configure definitely for your initial configuration here is going to be your taxes. All right, so let me go ahead and log into the web portal. This is just a demo account. I'm going to log into the store itself. and I'll show you where you can configure your taxes. Now, the way that we do our taxes on our system is you're going to assign the taxes at the individual product level. And the reason for that is that if you want to have items that would actually have different taxes applied to them, you can. All right. So let me give you an example. So first of all, let's look at the tax rates. So you can establish the different tax rates, your local, state, federal, any other additional taxes like tobacco, liquor, alcohol tax and things like that. So you're going to create those taxes with their corresponding tax rates. And then you're going to group those tax rates into categories, which is what you're going to assign to the individual product. All right. So in my case, my default tax category is called tax standard. And when you look at what tax rates are active, it's just your local and your state tax. I also have a tobacco tax category, which includes your local, your state, and then a tobacco tax rate as well. All right. So any tobacco product, I'll go ahead and apply the tobacco tax category, and all the other products I'll apply just your plain tax standard. All right. But there's no limit in terms of tax rates you can create. And of course, no limit in terms of how many tax categories you can create. As we look over at the terminal itself, okay, and let me log in. And I apologize for security purposes. Both of these websites tend to log me out like after 5 minutes. So I got to log in while we're live. All right, we're going to be looking at an E700 terminal. I got my hands on here. Where do we have that? Of course, here we go. And I'm going to be sharing my screen of the terminal. Okay. Earlier today, I actually had another class and I wasn't able to get my hands on one of these. I just had a portable unit. So the screen is organized a little bit different. All right. All right. So as you can see here, you've got your main screen. So in order to configure your taxes here, instead of doing it in the web portal, you're going to go to inventory. And then you're going to have the same two options. Taxes pertain to the tax rates. Okay. Now this is a different store than what I showed you. Okay. And then categories pertain to, like this one, they've got two of them, the mega tax and the tax standard. Okay. It's kind of the same thing that you saw on the web portal. Okay. But it just shown a little bit differently. Okay. All right. Next thing is your employees. You may actually have employees that you want them to have access to certain functions, but you want to restrict their access from certain functions. You're going to find that you're going to have to create, first of all, an employee role or a user role. Okay. And that's where you would do it here on the web portal. I've already got some roles created here. Let's go ahead and take it from the top and create a brand new role. All right. So here you've got all of the functions that have to do, with the register. Okay. All of the reports and all that stuff. Some administrative functions and so forth. So you're going to activate here whatever you want the individuals to have access to. Okay. Once you create the profile, and again, I've got all of these profiles created here, you're going to actually create the POS user. Okay. On this screen also, our system comes with a time card feature, which can keep track of how many hours worked. So on here is where you would actually export your time card report in Excel. And then, of course, create the different profiles. So let's take a look at one of the profiles here. Okay. A couple of things I want to point out. Number one is you can require the individual or the user to clock in every time they log in. Okay. The second thing is that the birthday is not a required field, but if you're going to be selling any type of age-restricted products, and if that employee does not have a registered birth date, then unfortunately they won't be able to sell it. Okay, you're going to need authorization from somebody else who does have their birth date included on there. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at the same functions, but now on the terminal side. You get out of here. You're going to find this under the maintenance function here. Okay, you go to maintenance and the same two functions here. This is where you create the role. Now, I have a personal preference of using it here more than on the web portal, simply because everything that's listed under the basic tab usually has to do with your sales. And then everything that's listed under the authority tab has to do with the back office stuff. So you can restrict, who has access to what reports and so forth, right? And again, once you create the employee profile, then you actually create the user. And you've got all the same stuff over here that you do on the other end. except the time card stuff, of course. But same thing, you know, you can activate to whether the employee requires the clock in or not. Here you can see it. Let's set it a little bit. Oh, can't move it another way. Okay. So this is where you would require the employee to clock in if you wanted to. Again, their birth date. And again, if they don't have a birth date listed on here, they're not going to be able to sell any type of an age restricted product. Okay. All right. So we've looked at taxes. We've looked at employee roles. The next setup component that I think is critical is your receipt. All right. Setting up your receipt. Now, our system allows you to even put a logo on your receipt. And you're going to find that on the web portal. And I think it's a little easier to do it on the web portal simply because if you are going to use a logo, and it's easier to upload here. So you're going to go to POS configuration, and then you're going to see receipt. And this is where you can configure your receipt. Okay. Again, very easy on the computer to upload a logo on here. Just got to be careful. It can't be too big, or otherwise it won't print on the whole receipt. It can be color, and it'll just translate it to black and white when you're adding it. You can also add your headers. You can really add multiple headers on here and choose what what kind of alignment you want, middle, right, left, and so forth. You can choose your footer, all right, and then you can choose what components you want to see. Okay, now, of course, if you want a barcode, if you're using a barcode scanner, it's a lot easier to find a purchase if you use a barcode scanner. So for the purpose of refunding and things like that, the ability to send the email, our system allows you to send email receipts instead of printing them. It doesn't allow for text though. Okay. And when we do send an email receipt, we send an actual PDF file. You can also add the tip line on the receipt. Now, this is very important because the majority of our terminals, they allow you to add the tip line also on the payment screen. All right. So if you are going to add the tip on the payment screen, then you would disable it on the receipt because it's already going to be printed on the receipt. But if you want the tip to be added on the actual receipt manually by the customer, then you got to make sure that you disable the payment on the terminal or the addition of the tip on the terminal, right? So how do you do that? Okay, so you've seen already how to configure on here. Let's go ahead and move over to the actual POS. Oh, it'll clock me out every once in a while, so we got to go back in and log back in. Give me 1 second. I apologize. This is kind of beyond my ability to fix because it's something that PAX has instituted, and it's for security purposes. So I understand why. All right. So great. So first of all, let me show you on here how you would configure your receipt. You go to settings. Okay. And then of course you got receipt setup right here. Okay. Kind of the same way. But again, if you're going to do logo on the receipt, the problem is that to upload the logo is going to be a little bit difficult. All right. It can be done. It's tricky. You got to use a USB file and then there's nowhere to locate it. So I think it's easier on the back office. But you kind of have all the same stuff, that you would have on the back end. But regarding the tip line, this is what you need to do. Okay, we're going to stay in settings, but you're going to go to configuration instead. Okay, and you're going to scroll down. You're going to see that it has the option to add tips at the end of the day. Okay, and then it also has the option for show tips on customer display. Actually, this is not even set up appropriately because if you're going to show tips on the customer display, you shouldn't be adding them at the end of the day. They're already going to be added for each transaction. So again, just to recap, okay, if you're going to be adding the tip on the payment terminal, this should be the setting. Show tip options on customer display. Of course, on the payment app, you need to choose whether you want to preset percentages or dollar amounts. All right. And then you need to disable add tips at the end of the day. And you would also need to disable on the receipt side the tip line so it does not print. But if you want the tip to be added on the printed receipt, then you need to disable this. That says show tip options on customer display. You need to enable add tips at end of day. And then for the receipt, you need to make sure that the tip line is also included. All right. Okay. So that's with regards to the receipt configuration. Let's take a look at the product catalog. Okay. So you have all these different options, the products themselves, the categories, refund reason categories. You've got your modifier groups, which, it just makes it a little bit easier to assign modifiers. Instead of having to do one by one, you can have a group of modifiers like, hot dog toppings and things like that. And then you get your product attributes. And just so you understand the difference between an attribute and a modifier, the attributes are going to be unique modifiers, meaning you can only choose one. So for example, size is considered an attribute because it's either going to be, small, medium, large, extra large, right? You can't have an item that's both small and medium. Or color usually is an attribute, or flavor is an attribute, right? Well, the modifiers, if you choose sauces, you can say, all right, I've got ketchup, mayo, mustard, relish, whatever you want, and you can add all of those. So that's really the difference between the modifier and the attribute. Now, in our system, the attributes also have a special function, right? The modifiers as well, but you can actually use your attributes to keep track of inventory, to also determine pricing, whether it's the actual price or an addition on top of the established price. And I'll show you all those things in a minute. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we're going to go to products, where you're going to create your products, right? You got a whole bunch of products over here. I'm gonna select on the cigarette side because I want to show you something very specific. Okay, and all the products that are under cigarettes. So let's take a look first of all at all the fields that you would fill out, starting of course with your product name. You can add a description. That's more for your reference. It's not going to be listed anywhere. You can add a short name as well. Again, this makes it easier if you're going to do a query looking for a product by name. It makes it easier. And of course, you got categories. Now, we advise you utilize categories, especially if you're not going to have a scanner for barcode, because it's going to be easier for you to navigate and find the desired product. Okay. Display order. I mean, within a category, you can choose where the item is going to be placed, whether it's going to be at the top, at the bottom, and so forth. All right. But if you don't set it here, then on the terminal, all right, if we go back to, we're under settings configuration, you can actually choose the product sorting rules here. So if you don't assign any type of a display order here, then this is what's going to command. And you've got different options here. You can do it, by creation time, by name, and then the display order is the number that I said. So we can say, all right, this is display by name or whatever that may be. All right. Oh. All right, so let's go back to here. You've got two fields for barcodes. You've got your SKU and you also have GTIN. So you can actually use either one of these or both even to identify. Okay. Now this field product vendor, for now, you're not going to use it. We only have it reserved for a specific function, which is tobacco reporting. So if you sell tobacco, you can join a loyalty program that's sponsored by the tobacco distributors. And that's where you would use that. For now, don't worry about this if you're not using that product. You can activate the system to sell an item by weight. Okay. And once you activate this, then you can choose what the weight unit is going to be. In reality, you can choose any unit here. It doesn't distinguish whether it's weight, length, volume, whatever that may be. All right. So it's up to you. If you want to sell by inches, you just activate sell by weight and then just put inches over here. And that's what's going to show up on the sales screen. You can also choose to disable an item from the POS. And this is a good function for, let's say you sell seasonal items. So, maybe for 6 months of the year, you wanted to show on the sales screen, 6 months of the year, you don't. Also, if you run out of an item, but you don't want to show on the sales screen, but not delete it from inventory, you would also do that. You also have the option to enable it on the POS, but not show it on the menu. And this is an important function for things like ingredients, as I was saying, modifiers. So for example, ketchup, mustard, mayo, you're going to have those as modifiers on the system, but you're not going to sell them. So you would have them enabled for the POS, but you would have them disabled to show on the POS menu. Okay. And then the last item here in this section for general information is EBT. So you as a merchant, you're responsible for activating an item that would be qualified for EBT purchases. Okay. And the system is going to distinguish as you're ringing items up and somebody uses an EBT card. It's not going to cover the payment for items that are not authorized for EBT. But again, it's your responsibility to make sure that you're complying with the rules and regulations in terms of assigning EBT acceptance to a specific item. All right. All right. So that's pricing. Let's go. That's general information. Let's go over to pricing. Right. So here The reason why it says cash is because I've got dual pricing activated on the system and I have cash as the input price. That's why it says that there. If you don't have dual pricing, it won't say cash on here. So you can input the price on here. You choose a tax category and it's going to automatically choose the price. And it's going to, if you choose the average cost, it'll tell you what the profit and the gross margin will be. Now, the reason why this item doesn't have any pricing here is because I'm controlling the price by the attributes. This is a vape pen. And normally vape pens come in multiple sizes and flavors, right? And the price may vary based on the combination of size and flavor. So in order to avoid having to input, all the combinations of individual items, I just input the main item, could be a brand, for example, and then through the attributes, as I'll show you in a minute, I'll be able to manage inventory and pricing as well based on the combination. That's why it's at 0 here. You can also activate tax exemption for items, okay? Now here in their inventories where you're going to choose how you're going to keep track of the inventory. So for this item, as I mentioned previously, I'm keeping track by the attributes, but I can also keep track by the item itself. Now, when you activate that, then you would input here your stock quantity and your low inventory threshold, so you're alerted whenever you go below that threshold. Or you can choose not to track inventory at all, okay? And I'll show you that inventory threshold in a report we're going to see in a minute, okay? All right, so next section, modifiers. So this is a section where you're either going to add modifiers or you're going to make this item a modifier. So under the same products menu, you're going to both create products and modifiers, okay? Now our system, as I mentioned before, gives you the option to add individual modifiers if you wanted to, okay? So in this case, I may have add chili, add mayo, add nuts, no whipped cream and so forth. But also you can create modifier groups and add those instead. So for example, for my hot dog toppings, okay, I have a single modifier group. And then when you select that, it'll have all of the ingredients that you've added to that modifier group, okay? And then finally, the mapping. So as I said previously, most of our devices come with a built-in printer, but if you do need an additional printer, the system does support network printers. The only requirement for the printer to work is that it utilizes Epson printing protocols, okay? And you would just assign it here. If you don't assign a printer here, it'll just print default, which is a built-in printer. But as you can see, I've got, my built-in printer plus 2 other printers on here as well that I can assign. And again, these are assigned at the individual product level because maybe not every product needs to go to that additional network printer. So if you're a, quick serve restaurant or a food truck, maybe you've got a printer in the kitchen or preparation area, and you want the items that actually need preparation to go there. Or maybe you have also a drink section. So you have 2 printers. So some items go to the kitchen printer, some items go to the drinks printer, okay? Then if you do activate restricted H, which I don't have it active right now for the vape, simply because it's easier than when I go to the sales screen. But if you do activate it here, you can establish a store-wide minimum H requirement for both the employee and the customer. But then you can modify it at the individual product level. So for this store, I do have a store-wide minimum age requirement for both employees and customers of 21 and over. But if I needed to sell something that's 18 or 16 or whatever age, you can modify it here, okay? And, I'm going to leave it blank. All right. So up next, I want to look at the other sections here. You've got an area where you can place a picture, okay? And this is more for the user reference, not for the customer. The customer will not see this. And then you've got the attributes section, which is what I was mentioning all along, right? So for the vape pen, I've got 2 types of attributes. I've got the size, and I've got 2 sizes. I've got 2 ounce and 4 ounce. And I've got the flavors. I've got 4 flavors, as you can see here, okay? So again, the inventory quantity is going to be determined by the combination of the size and the flavor. That's how many I've got in stock for each one of these. Also, the pricing is going to vary depending on the size and the flavor. And I could even establish a minimum quantity threshold different for each one if I wanted to. If I did have a barcode for each combination, I could also input it here. Okay, not a problem there. But as you can see here, both the pricing and the inventory is fully controlled by the product attributes. I'm sorry, guys. You may hear some dogs in the background. They're outside working from home today in Jacksonville, so hoping that the hurricane doesn't kill us. Give me 1 second, guys. I'll be right back. Hey. I want to show you now on the terminal, though, the same thing that we just went over here. Okay. Again, of course, it logged me out. Let me log back in. So I'm going to show you the products on the terminal itself. Just give me 1 second. Okay, well, it comes back up. All right. So we want to save the changes. Yes. It's going to ask me to log in again. Okay. So on the terminal, you're going to go to inventory, and then you're going to go to products. Okay. And again, you got pretty much, all the same information. Let's go ahead and choose any product here. Okay. And have all the same information. Divided a little bit different because you got, more tabs. You got the attributes as well. Okay. So it's kind of the same functionality. It just laid out a little bit differently. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at the next section, which is your categories. Now, again, the categories can be utilized just to help you navigate a little easier, the salesperson navigate the screen a little bit easier. But we did something with categories that I want to point out. Okay. On our system, you have 4 types of categories. In this section, only 3 here, and I'll show you the 4th one in a second. All right. You want to make sure that if you want this category to be displayed on the menu, that this is active. But you also have the option when you're doing a manual entry to include that category for manual entry. So with our system, you can mirror all your main sales categories so that when you're doing a manual entry, you can also categorize the item, or you can create a unique category for both on the sales screen and on the manual entry as well. And then the third option here is creating a category for pay in and pay out. And this is good for things like maybe lottery payments, even your cash management, right? You can create a category for, cash management, which says that at the beginning of the day, you're going to register how much cash you received, and at the end of the day, you're going to register how much cash you're returning. All right. All right. So that's on the main category section. The 4th category type is refund reason categories. This is something separate. So you can actually create a reason for each one of the refunds. All right. This way you can track why things are being returned. Now, on our system, when you create when you do a refund, it'll actually prompt you whether you want to add the item back to inventory or not. All right. So let's take a look at the terminal now. All right. You've got same thing under categories, right? Again, you activate whether display a menu is for pay in, pay out, category entry for manual entry, or you've also got your refund reason categories on here, just exactly the same. All right. Okay, next section I want to show you here is your modifier group. So this is where I combine different kinds of modifiers so that it's easier to assign the products, right? So for example, for hot dog sauces, these are the ones that it comes with. So I've created 2 modifiers with that group, no ketchup, no mustard, so you can hold stuff, right? And then you got additional hot dog toppings. So I created add relish, add mayo, add chili. You're going to see these in action. Sunday toppings and things like that. That's where you would group all those individual modifiers that you created under the products function here. Okay. And again, if you go back to the terminal, you go to inventory, same thing. You got your modifier groups right here, just the same. Okay. And then the last section I want to show you under the catalog section is the product attribute. So here you're going to create like the main attribute type, right? Like size, flavor, but the actual values and the combination of those values are created at the individual product level. But you got to make sure that the attribute type already exists here under product attributes. Okay. And same thing. If we switch over to the terminal, you're going to see the attributes here. It kind of mirrors the same thing that you saw on the screen. All right. All right, great. So we've looked at taxes, employee roles, receipt configuration, product catalog. Let's look at the additional printers then. So here on the back end, if you want to, set up additional printers, you have to go to POS configuration, and then printer settings here. Okay. Now the printer is going to be connected to whatever network device you have. It doesn't really connect directly to the terminal. Okay. So this way, any terminal that's on the same network is going to be able to connect. If you want to add the printer on the back end, you're going to go into settings, and then again, you got your printer set up here. Okay, this is where you would add your printers. Okay, your printers are usually they're the way that the system finds them is through either Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. Okay, but again, they have to be on the same network. All right, and as I mentioned earlier, remember you can actually assign printers at the individual product level. So you'll have different products that maybe will print out in additional different printers. Okay. All right. Just have a couple more things to go through here. First of all, let's talk a little bit about payment methods. So let's first take a look at the back end. If you're going to be accepting EBT or checks, you need to go to this configuration section here, go to settings, and then go to store settings. Okay. And then here you're going to have to, under payment settings, activate EBT and check. But that's not the only thing you need to do. Once you activate these, right, then you have to go to POS configuration, and then payment method. And you want to make sure that you go into EBT and you activate it. Okay. If you're going to be using any kind of a discount, you can activate a certain payment type for support cash discount. Okay. Same thing with checks, credit, all of them. The other thing I want to show you here is that our system does support non-traditional payment types, right? So for example, you see I've got Cash App and Venmo here. It doesn't mean that our system will process the actual Cash App or Venmo transaction. You still need to use the app, but at least it'll keep track of it. Okay. So this way you'll be able to, through reports, see what volume of your sales are being paid through any of these non-traditional methods. Okay. All right. Switch over to the terminal so we can see all the same stuff. So this is right in settings. And you can go to payment method here. Now, even if you have at the back end, if you have your items or your payment methods activated, you can still modify it so that at the terminal level, maybe you want to disable some payment types. Maybe you don't want to accept cash, well, not cash, but credit card payment for on this device or anything like that. Okay, that's how you would do it. See, in this case, they've got EBT and check disabled, even though it looks like at the main level it has been enabled. Okay. All right, let's go over to loyalty. So our system allows you to offer a loyalty program based on points. Okay, and you need to be able to configure how many points are generated by a purchase and how many points are needed to redeem a purchase. Okay, and that you would do under here. Okay, give me 1 second here. Okay, so let's take a look at settings, store settings, and where you're going to enable and also configure your loyalty. So first of all, of course, you need to enable it as a form of payment here. Okay. And then this is where you would configure that ratio between how many points are generated, right, by a purchase. So it says here every 10 cents generates 1 point. And then how much that point is going to be worth. So in this case, 1 point is worth 1 penny. So basically, this loyalty program is a 10-to-1 or 10% cashback or payback for the client. Okay, so that's where you would configure that here. There's no configuration of the loyalty program on the terminal itself. That's only configured here. Let's talk a little bit about gift cards. All right, so our system does come with an internal gift card feature built in, so you can actually generate your own gift cards. And they'll have to be assigned to the same store though. Okay, we can't keep track of balances if you have multiple stores. They all have to be assigned under a single store. Okay. We also do work with vendor-based gift cards. So in the case that you do have multiple stores, that's what we would recommend, because normally all the balances are kept outside of the system. Somebody else keeps track of those balances. All right. But if you do want to use our internal gift cards, this is what it looks like on here. Okay. Your reseller would need to activate that feature and assign a card bin to it. But when you create a gift card, it actually creates a barcode which you can print and then maybe stick it on a label for a card or an actual gift certificate or something like that. All right. So this is where you would create the gift card. Okay. You can actually, as you see on here, do a batch recharge if you want. And on the terminal, you're going to find access to the gift cards. Log back in. You're going to find access to the gift cards under the customer profile. All right. So let me show you what that looks like on here. And then when I mean I shouldn't say customer profile, the customer function. You go to customer here. This is where you're going to manage the local gift card. Okay. You scan it so you can, add value. Okay. Now, as far as vendor-based gift cards, it's going to depend on who you're processing through. So you got to verify with your processor who they're using. So see what gift cards are available for vendor-based. Okay. All right. Let's talk about pay in and pay out a little bit here. So on the terminal itself, you got your pay in and pay out function. Okay. And as I said, you can create categories for pay in and pay out. Doesn't look like we've got any categories under. Do we have any categories here? Oh, we do. A main entry, test category. So this is a good function, as I said, maybe for your cash handling for the day. This is how much cash I received. This is how much cash is going out. Now the system doesn't have the ability to tell you, okay, I got 5 20s, 3 10s. It doesn't have that ability. You do have the notes field where you could input that information if you wanted to, but it doesn't have that ability yet. Another really good function for creating categories for pay in and pay out is if you have a convenience store that sells a lottery, you can also create a category for each lottery. So when you're paying out a specific lottery, which lottery is going to, and you'll be able to see that on a report later on. Okay. All right, let's see here. Got POS. You got pay in, pay out here. This is where you can pull reports and things like that as well for pay in, pay out. Okay. You can even do it by a date range. I don't think I've got any reports. Let me go back a couple of months, see if I have any reports on this one. Oh yeah, there you go. You got some other pay and payout stuff on here. Okay, gives you your transactions here. All right. One more thing before we go into discounts and pricing is synchronizing the information on the device. Okay. Now, every time you run a transaction, the device will automatically, of course, send out a transaction to the cloud. And remember, on our system, yes, we do use the cloud as a backup, but all your items are stored locally on the terminal. And what that means is if your internet goes down, you're still going to be able to run cash transactions. And we don't recommend doing credit because when it comes back up, you might find out that the credit card is invalid. And our system doesn't use what's known store and forward anyway. But the other thing is, it's very easy to switch networks on these devices. All you got to do is swipe down on the top right twice. And you can choose, hey, I want to change my Wi-Fi network to a mobile hotspot. Very easy to do. Okay. So what we would recommend is if your internet goes down and you have a cell phone nearby, just go ahead and activate the mobile hotspot and assign the terminal to the mobile hotspot. And then you can switch it back when your Wi-Fi comes back up. So those are the transactions. Like your transaction is constantly being uploaded to the cloud. All right. Now, if you're making changes to inventory pricing and things like that, which is let's say a broader or a range of data, let's go to settings and go to cloud. The system will do that usually the least or the shortest period every 5 minutes. Okay. Especially if you're like on a metered connection or anything like that, has a limit of how many gigs you can download. This is very useful. But again, what's going to be syncing every 5 minutes is not the transaction information. That's done immediately. You can actually run a transaction on one terminal, not even finish it, and go to another terminal. You should be able to find it. But this is more of, inventory changes, or maybe you've added a new employee, things like that. It's going to synchronize every 5 minutes. Also, it'll warn you whether it has synchronized or not within a specific time frame. Minimum 1 hour, but you can also increase that to, longer hours, especially if, again, you're not connected to the internet all the time. And you can see here, I'm not going to make any changes here. You can see that on the main screen, you'll know that it has synchronized within the last hour because you have this little blue cloud. If I hadn't synchronized within that minimum time frame that I've established, then this would actually be red and it would have an X on it. All right. All right. So that's regarding cloud synchronization. So up next, let's talk a little bit about discounts and pricing. Okay. Actually, let's start on the terminal itself. You're going to go to maintenance. Three things I want to point out here for discount and pricing. All right. First one is the global price change function. This allows you to modify pricing for your inventory, right? And you can actually do it at three different levels. You can modify pricing for the whole inventory if you choose all items, for a specific category, or for a select item. And you've got three ways in which you can modify the pricing, okay? You can set a specific dollar amount for the price. So, now everything's going to cost $1.99. Or you can increase or decrease the price by percentage. You can also either increase the percentage by the profit or the gross margin. Or you can round the price up or down to 0.95, 0.99, and 00. Okay. All right. Special pricing. Now, this pertains to sales pricing. And you have three types of sales pricing you can use on the system. First is your standard sale, and you'll choose the item, choose a specific start date and end date for the discount. You can actually assign a dollar price for the item, or you can give a percentage off. And the second type of discount is your bulk pricing or bulk discount. Okay. This is for, wholesale. So if you buy 10 or more, then I'll give you, 50% off. You can, again, set a dollar price, or you can set a percentage off. You can use this as well for things like, BOGO. The only thing is that right now, if you do 2 for 1, which is basically 50% off if you buy 2 more items or 2 items, you can't reset the price back to its original price once you go beyond the threshold. And what I mean by that is, if you establish a threshold of 2 items in order to give a 50% discount, and somebody comes by and buys 5, they're going to get a 50% discount on all 5. And we are about to add a feature to reset that. And you're going to find that here. It'll say reset, which means that after you go past that threshold, it'll go back to its regular price. That should be out within the next couple of weeks. And then finally, your time-based pricing. This is if you want to conduct a regular weekly sale, okay? Let's say that, you have a perishable item like milk, and you receive your shipment every Friday. Well, maybe on Thursdays, you want to run a sale on milk to try to, move that merchandise so you can clear the way for fresh milk, all right? That's how you would use that. All right. One more item I want to talk about pricing, and that's the price level, okay? Price level pertains to groups like veterans, or you can create for anybody, okay? Now, you can apply it to all the products. You can apply it to specific dollar amount if you want, price range, okay, or category, okay? Now, in order for somebody to receive this discount, they need to be registered in the customer database. Now, you can register them on the database at the time of checkout. It's very easy. Actually, the system only requires first or last name. And then they'll receive that discount. But of course, we encourage you to maybe try to gather a little bit more personal information for marketing purposes, like your email address and things like that. All right. All right. So that's the third one. I want to switch over to the web portal. See if it's still open. It is open. Okay. And talk a little bit about pricing there. Okay. So here you've got kind of the same thing I showed you on the back end. All right. You've got, sales, bulk, and time-based, right? The one thing I like about this system, right, is that on the terminal, you can only apply sales to an individual item at a time, right? Or a discount, I should say. It's an individual item on the time. The nice thing about on the web portal is that if you want to add, a whole category of items, serve food, for example, okay? You just select here, and all of the categories are going to be selected. All of the items are going to be on here. So if you're going to do a sale on multiple items, especially if it's, a large amount of items, I'd recommend you establish it here because it's going to be a little bit faster to do so. Okay. You can also on here on the customer maintenance, you've also got, your price level information, okay, that you saw before. And we're not really using this product discount. We're probably going to be removing that very soon. Okay. All right. So that's as far as pricing and discounting is concerned. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about customers. Okay. So you've got your customer database here, and it only stores personal information. We cannot store any payment information on the POS side because I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the industry has a certain requirements, norms, called PCI, which pertain to security of payment information, personal information, right? So because we connect to the payment terminal, what's known as a semi-integration connection, which means that the payment terminal only sends the POS either an approval or a decline. We don't have to worry about PCI compliance for Sound POS. But if you start storing any type of payment information under the customer profile, then there's a breach or something like that, then yes, you are going to be held liable for that breach, because you're not supposed to store any personal information on the POS itself. Any payment information has to go through the actual payment terminal, right? So on here under the customer database, first of all, if you already had a database and you wanted to import it into our database, we do have a template available. Okay, you can download it here and then upload the information. Okay, you can export your whole database of clients. So our system, unfortunately, right now doesn't do any direct communication with customers that are registered on it, like emailing or texting. But because you can export in Excel, and you can use Microsoft and do a mail merge, which would be easy to, once you do the first, or you set up the first mail merge, and from that point forward, you just got to export your file, the most recent file, and then you should be able to do the mail merge seamlessly. Okay. Because our system comes with two things, all right, on the customer side, it comes with the ability to activate the loyalty program that I showed you before, how to configure the ratios, but it also comes with the ability of the merchant provide the customer with a credit account. Okay. So for example, this is a customer that I use a lot. You look at their credit account, you can see all the transactions, when they've charged something to the credit account, when they've made a repayment. And you, the merchant, get to choose at the individual customer level how much credit, what the credit line is going to be. And you also get to choose how they pay it back. This is a good feature if you offer any type of a layaway plan, because you can charge the total price of the item to the customer under the credit account. And then as they pay it down, you can see, how much they still owe on there. So really good use for that. Or if maybe you work with any type of a, education where you have an annual fee, and you want to maybe break it up into 12 payments, you can also charge, the whole tuition fee on the credit account. And then you can see how much they owe as they pay it down. All right. So really good feature. All right. So second thing I want to show you is in terms of the loyalty program. Again, our system unfortunately does not communicate directly with clients, but one thing that it does do, besides configuring what you want, is you can adjust the value. You can actually gift points to each client. Okay. So it does allow you to do that. Okay. All right. Let me show you on the terminal then. Log out again. Let me log back in. I want to show you on the terminal the same customer database. Go ahead and put that down here. Bear with me 1 second, folks. There we go. All right, so you have on the main screen, you have your customer function. And this is what I showed you. You can see the gift cards. Let's go to the customer side. Okay. Now, again, this is a different machine than the store I'm showing you on here. But as you go to the customer profile, first of all, you can take a picture of the customer. Let me switch profiles here. You can take a picture of the customer if you wanted to register in case you're worried about any imposters and things like that. You got all your main personal information here on the main screen. And then you go to the account tab. That's where you can establish how much credit you want to give the customer. And then that's where we keep track of the credit, how much it's owed, and what you've got available. if you did have transactions, you'd be able to see all the transaction history here. Same thing on the loyalty. I don't know, this person's got what, 1 trillion points. You can see all of the you can see that they've adjusted, right? They ran 3 transactions and gained this amount of point, but somebody went ahead and adjusted and gave more points to the clients here. Okay, so that's on the terminal itself, how you can look at the customer information, the credit, and also the loyalty plan. All right. I showed you also already where you can create the different profiles for your employees. We're going to go back to the back end. But what I want to show you on the back end here is, give me 1 second here, how you can manage on the employee side your time card, right? So you can export your time card using the export button here. You can choose, last 7 days, last 30 days. You can do something customized as far as the time frame. Okay. And now the system does not, take a look at this, because you can actually put, hourly wage. You can even put the tax rate. But everybody, this is not, our system is not a payroll processing system. Okay. So this is more than anything for reference, but not meant for you to utilize it to process your payroll. You got to use some specialized software, or maybe a firm that specializes in doing your payroll. Okay, it would only be for reference, but again, it'll keep track of your hours worked. Okay, and the format, you take a look at it. Choose a store here real quick. The format is in a single field for total hours worked. We go last 30 days. I don't think I've got any hours worked on here, but let's take a look at it anyway. So it's fractional, right? Using decimals. So 5.5 hours or 5 hours and 30 minutes will show up as 5.3. Yeah, well, it doesn't have, because I don't really have any well, you do have a little bit here, 0.02. So I just want to show you that it is a decimal based, right? 3.7 hours, So again, 30 minutes will be 0.5, 50 minutes would be 0.25, and so forth. Okay, just want to show you that as well. All right, let's take a look at the reports. Okay, now the reports are going to be a little different. This is one of the areas that maybe varies the most between the terminal and the back end. Okay, on the back end, you've got some pre-established reports like bestsellers, where you can choose a specific time frame to look at your bestsellers. You also have another pre-established report, which is your product never purchased report. And again, you can look at a specific time frame. You've also got your low stock report. This is going to be automatically populated based on the thresholds that you established for each product. Okay. I don't have anything that I'm low on inventory right now. It looks like. Let's switch over to product attributes, see if I have anything here. No, nothing is below the threshold that I've established. Make sure I've got that here. No. All right. You also have the ability to email reports. Now you need to register the email address, and you would do that, I believe. No. User. Here we go. Email report address. You have to add the person here, and then you go back to reports, and then you can email the person. They'll be listed. Their email address will actually be listed here. You can choose which one you want, and then they'll receive that report. Okay. This is, again, not something that you're going to be using for the time being. This is only for tobacco reporting. But your bulk of the reports are here under the transactions or control board here. Okay. And under here, you're going to be able to filter. So you can choose your time frame. Let's go back a couple of months. You can choose a specific terminal if you wanted to, specific category, or even a payment method, product. But we're going to look for all the transactions for the last couple of months, just to show you here in the report. And again, this is not really a report. This is more of a dashboard. I've got 37 transactions, so let me expand this to 50. This will I'll be able to see all the sales that I've actually completed in the last 60 days. All right. You can look at the individual transactions too. Okay, look on here. You can see, payment information, right? You can even print the receipt. And again, our system can email the receipts, and as you can see, it's a PDF file. So this is what that's receipt configured receipt looks like here. Of course, no page breaks on the actual receipt. All right. You can look at the products that were purchased for this transaction here in detail. Was there any discount given? Right. And then you can also see the payment information. Okay. Now you can see on here that for this transaction, I've got 3 forms of payment, right? So our system does support multiple tenders. Now it's not going to do the calculation for you if you want to break it into 3 or 2. You got to do that manually. But it will accept as many forms of payments as you need to complete or to pay for a specific transaction. And they can be the same, meaning multiple credit cards, or it can be credit, cash, debit, whatever that may be. All right. Okay, that's here. But the bulk of the reports, again, this is just a dashboard. The bulk of the reports are up here. And you've got reports for transactions, payments, categories, customer, employee, tax, and tips. And then you have 2 versions for each. You've got a detailed version and a totals version. All right. So I just want to show you, at least for transactions, so you can see the difference between a detailed and a total version of the report. So for a transaction detail report, you're going to see all the products that were purchased for each transaction, regardless of whether the item generated revenue or not. Okay, so this is one transaction. These are all the products. Second transaction, these are all the products, and so forth, right? But if you don't need as much detail, then you would pull the totals report, right? Transaction totals. So this is going to have a single line item per transaction. It won't give you any description of the items that were purchased, but it'll give you all the payment information, any discounts, taxes, and things like that. And of course, it gives you your totals at the bottom as well. That's kind of the same principle for all the other reports. Now, if you need a copy of this report that can't be modified, because obviously this is Excel, you have all the same reports available in PDF format. Just to show you at least one report on the totals, you'll see you contain the same information. You even have, again, at the bottom, you got all the totals. Okay. All right. So this report function in the web portal, if you've got, multiple terminals, it'll show all the terminals on here. You can choose individual terminals, but it'll show all the terminals on here. If we go over to the actual device, the reports you're going to find on the device only pertain to the transactions that were run on that terminal. You're not going to be able to pull any reports or any reporting data from any of the other terminals. You have to go to the back end to do so. And that's by design. So we don't, so this terminal is not going to be able to do something that another terminal did and maybe mess things up. Okay. So you got your own report applet here, right? And these are all the reports that are available. Okay. They can be printed, but of course they're going to be printed on the small paper, printer that it comes with here. Okay. And you got a pretty good, number of reports on here, but I just want to emphasize the reports that you find on the terminal will only include data for transactions that run on that particular terminal. Okay. All right. So we looked at the reports. We looked at inventory already. Let's see here. All right. We looked at the printers. All right. Let's take a look at the actual sales screen. Or you know what? I've got 1:58 Eastern time. Why don't we go ahead and do the 5-minute break in case you need to, stretch your legs a little bit. So again, I've got 1:58 on the dot. When we come back, like 5 after 2. All right. I'll talk to you guys in a little bit. All right, everybody. I've got 2:05 on the dot. So why don't we go ahead and shoot, I should have okay. Why don't we go ahead and continue with the next section, okay, which is pretty much just going through the sales screen and the sales menus. All right. Log in here again. So this is the actual section where we're going to be covering running a transaction and several of the other options that you're going to see within the sales screen. Okay. So obviously to get into the sales screen, you tap on sales. Okay. So let's first of all, let's go through a couple of things on here. Okay. First thing is that if you are using a scanner and you scan something that's not on your inventory list, the system is actually going to prompt you whether you want to add it to inventory or not. Okay. So again, with a scanner, you really don't need to do any queries or anything like that. If you don't have a scanner, you want to look for something in inventory, you can tap on the inventory screen or the inventory button at the top left, and then input however you want to look for that. Okay. Also, if you have an item that's not in inventory, you want to add it, and you're in the middle of sale, or you don't want to go back or back office or go to the actual inventory section, you can also add the product quickly here. Okay. The only restriction you're going to have with adding the product here is that you won't be able to add the actual number of items you have in inventory, or you won't be able to add the threshold if you want to do like a minimum inventory cutoff. All right. For that, you're going to have to, again, either go to the inventory section on the terminal or go to the back office and make the correction there. All right. Okay, give me 1 sec because I think I did not cover that, but all right. So that's with regards to inventory. If a customer, comes up and they are a registered customer, you can look them up by tapping on the customer. Now, the customers, you're going to be able to look them up by either name, phone number, or notes, but you can use a string of characters, meaning like the last 4 digits of the phone number, and it'll pull them up, or maybe something that's contained in their name, maybe they're called Robert. You can look them up by just typing ERT or ROB. All right. Same thing in notes. If you write or include any type of unique word in their notes, you're going to be able to look them up by typing the notes there as well. As you can see also, this screen allows you to add a customer while you're on the sales screen as well. So it's the same thing, very quickly. It's only going to require a first name and that's it. And you've got pretty much all the same information you would if you go to the actual customer profile on the system. Okay. So you can look up a customer or add a customer on the system. We're not currently affiliated with any type of a delivery service such as Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub and all that stuff. But you can assign a specific purchase to be pickup, delivery, takeout, or dine in. Any one of those. Okay. If it's delivery and you have the delivery address on the system for that customer, registered customer, it'll include it on the receipt as well. All right. Our system also, if you do have, for example, dine-in, you can print out the receipt before payment is taken. So we don't recommend our system for, full service restaurants, like big restaurants, because you can't do a reservation or have a table layout or even run a card for running a tab to see if it's valid. But for small mom and pops, it's still a pretty good solution. It's not that costly. So you can identify something for dine-in and then print out the receipt and bring it to the table before payment is done. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. If you do bring something up and you want to remove it from the cart, you can use the clear button. You can restrict that as well, right? If you want an employee not be able to clear anything off the cart. Search orders, you're going to look to search for orders that are not just on this terminal, but any order. Okay, you go to filter, and if you have multiple terminals, you will be able to find an order that was created in a different terminal here. Okay, you can do all of these fields on here. You can even look for orders that are not been paid completely, right? That are pending. Okay, so you can find any order that's assigned to your store, regardless of where or which terminal it was actually run on. Okay. If a customer comes up to the cash register and they don't have their wallet, You can use the held orders function to hold their order, and then you're going to recall it right then and there. Okay. The system does allow you to provide discounts. So you can do a discount, and this discount is going to apply to everything that's on the cart. And it can be percentage or it can be cash. Okay. If you do need to do an individual or an individual item discount, then what you would do is you would actually any categories here, okay. You would actually add the item, okay? And once you add it, you're gonna swipe right and you see the little percentage button there. So whatever percentage I apply here is only going to apply to that item. It's not going to apply to anything else on the shopping cart. Okay. So I can do something else and it's not going to get any type of a discount. Only that one item gets a 50% off. Okay. If you want to do manual entry, then you're going to use this category entry button. That allows you to choose what category the item is in. And if you don't input, let's say that you don't put a product name on there, you only put a price. Okay, $19.99. You add the product. It's going to add the actual category as the product name if you don't input a product name on here. So it's a nice feature, again, especially, we've seen like maybe thrift stores that utilize this. They don't actually have an inventory. Everything is inputted, but they're still able to just not have to input a description, but rather just select the category and boom. And then they'll be able to pull up reports and see what category sells the most, for example. All right. All right. A couple more things on here. Disregard this second manual entry. It's basically the same thing, but this one doesn't have categories. You can print the item, as I said before, if you assign it like for dining and things like that. You can run a refund right on here, open your cash drawer without running a transaction. You can also select if something is going to be tax exempt. And when I mean something, I mean the shopping cart. This would apply to the whole cart, okay? Or you can lock the screen on here, okay? All right, I'm going to go back to my regular menu screen on here, okay? I'm going to go ahead and process payments. So as I said before, you can actually, choose different forms of payment for a single transaction if you wanted to as well. Okay. If you are going to, if you see that it says include the tip, that's only for cash transactions, obviously, because there's no way to include a tip anywhere else with a cash transaction. But with a credit card, for example, then you see that option goes away. Okay. So let me go ahead and make a payment over here. I'm not going to print it. Okay. But that transaction, you would see it on the back end immediately. Okay. Okay. So that's pretty much it in terms of, the general functionality of the POS. As I said previously, if you have any questions, please take a look at the Q&A section of Zoom. And please write your questions there. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes, see if you're going to add any questions on there. And if you don't have any questions, again, you can see this recording. It should be up on our YouTube channel by tomorrow, hopefully by tomorrow. We're in Florida, so we're kind of waiting to see what happens with the hurricane here, unfortunately. Hopefully nothing will happen. We're in northern Florida, Jacksonville. So, all right. So I don't see any questions that have been added. Okay. Well, thank you again for choosing Sound POS as your POS provider. If you have any questions, please feel free to write to me as well. Caesar.r@soundpayments.com. I've already shared with you the support information, so you can give them a call or email them at support@soundpayments.com as well. And again, everybody, thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate that. Hopefully this was useful to you. And well, going forward then, if you have any questions, please let me know.